Welcome to Key Talking Points.
The podcast that makes learning effortless.
No fluff, no jargon, just clear, engaging explanations.
We break down complex topics so you don't have to.
Let's get straight to the point.
Visit keytalkingpoints.com for more. All right, so let's dive straight in. When we talk about self-discovery, it's kind of like peeling back the layers of an onion, isn't it? At its core, it's about understanding who you are, without all the noise, without the expectations of, society, friends, family. It's about finding your own voice in the midst of it all.
Yeah, and I think Zen philosophy really, it sort of captures that beautifully. There's this emphasis on turning inwards, prioritising inner wisdom over the external pressures you mentioned. It's not about adding more knowledge, but subtracting distractions until you reach clarity.
Exactly. And Zen often encourages this through mindfulness, doesn't it? Sitting in silence, just observing the mind. Sometimes it feels so simple, but it's in that simplicity that people often find the biggest revelations.
Right. And what's really fascinating is how universal this idea of self-discovery is. It doesn't belong to just one culture. Think about spiritual pilgrimages or even rites of passage. Cultures across the globe have these defining moments where people step away from, their daily existence and take time to reconnect.
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you, I had the chance to attend this retreat recently. It was based on practices from various cultures, and the whole idea was to disconnect, embrace rituals like journaling, breathwork. Honestly, it was transformative. For example, there was this exercise inspired by some traditions in Southeast Asia where we just sat with our thoughts. No distractions, just silence. I know that sounds terrifying to some people right now.
Terrifying, but also kind of liberating when you think about it.
Totally liberating. And it's almost like we're so used to being overloaded that we've forgotten how to be still. But these practices remind you that there's so much you can learn by just being with yourself. By the end of the retreat, I felt like I'd had a real breakthrough, like I'd shed a layer of unnecessary baggage.
That's what's so powerful about these experiences. They don't give you answers necessarily, but they create space for you to find them yourself. And in those moments, you can start to untangle who you are versus who you've been told you should be.
And when you think about it, isn't that what self-discovery is all about? Letting go of what doesn't serve you.
It definitely seems to be. And these cultural practices, like spiritual pilgrimages or those rites of passage we mentioned earlier, they're kind of designed to help people find that freedom, aren't they?
They're a roadmap to, yourself.
This journey of self-discovery that we've been talking about, it's so vividly captured in literature as well. Take Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, for instance. It's such an incredible exploration of this theme. The story mirrors the same ideas we've been discussing, like stepping away from distractions and finding clarity within. Following a young man's spiritual journey through ancient India, it beautifully portrays the process of understanding the world, and ultimately, oneself.
And what I think is so interesting about Siddhartha is that it doesn't try to tidy everything up into this neat little package, does it? It's messy and real, reflecting how growth can feel in real life. Sometimes it's not about finding answers, but, just asking better questions.
Right. And that, I think, is why it resonates so deeply even now. But let's spring forward a bit. Elizabeth Gilbert's Eat, Pray, Love is another one, isn't it? A completely different setting and era, but still, it's about a personal quest. Travel, heartbreak, exploring spirituality. It's a more modern take, but let's be serious here. It's got the same essence of peeling back those layers and figuring yourself out.
Yeah. And what's great is you can see how the societal context seeps into these stories. With Siddhartha, there's this reflection of Eastern philosophy and the spiritual undercurrents of the time. And then with Eat, Pray, Love, it's more about navigating a chaotic modern world, finding balance amidst all that noise. It's fascinating, really. Totally. And what's amazing is how these works continue to teach us something timeless. Like the idea that fulfillment doesn't come from just, checking off goals or pleasing others, but from really exploring what makes you, you. Which reminds me, I have to confess, I once tried writing my own self-discovery story. It was awful. I think I made it about 3 pages in before I realised I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I started it with, I think it was something like, as the sun set over the mossy hillside. And then I just stared blankly at the screen for ages.
Oh no, the mossy hillside betrayed you.
It really did. And every character I wrote just, I don't know, they all sounded like versions of me. It made me realise just how much self-discovery I still had left to do. I mean, how could I write about someone else finding themselves when I couldn't make sense of my own story?
Honestly, though, that's kind of brilliant in its own way. Writing can be, like a mirror, right? It forces you to confront those messy bits of yourself. So even if it was hilariously bad, it probably helped you in some way?
Maybe it helped me realise I should stick to reading instead of writing.
Fair. But whether you're writing one or just reading it, these stories remind us that self-discovery isn't some one-time event. It's ongoing. Every layer you strip back, there's another one underneath.
Exactly. And what makes these kinds of narratives so powerful is that they hold a mirror up to the human experience, showing us that we're all on this, messy, complicated, beautiful journey together.
And that's why these stories are so timeless, right? They mirror this ongoing journey we all experience. But the way we approach self-discovery now, it's expanded, hasn't it? We've got modern psychology, neuroscience, all these groundbreaking frameworks that are helping us explore what it truly means to understand ourselves today.
Yeah, and the idea of levels of consciousness is an example, isn't it? This sort of map that shows how we perceive and interact with the world. Psychology has come a long way in helping us understand why we behave the way we do and how to reshape those behaviours to align with who we want to be.
Absolutely. It's fascinating how science and spirituality have started to overlap. Like, think about mindfulness again. It's backed by neuroscience now. Studies show how it can literally rewire your brain. That's wild, isn't it? And it makes self-discovery feel a bit more, within reach.
Definitely. And then we're also seeing this reflected in modern films, which I think are brilliant tools for exploring self-discovery visually. Something like Life of Pi. It's not just a survival story, is it? It's deeply metaphorical about identity, purpose, and, finding peace in chaos.
And even more recently, something like Nomadland. That film about life on the road and connecting with the land, stripping everything back to what's essential. These stories really make you think about, what makes life meaningful on a personal level.
And it's not just cinema that's shaping this conversation. Let's be honest here. Social media has also become a massive part of modern self-discovery, hasn't it?
Oh, totally. You see people sharing their stories, their struggles, their growth, whether it's influencers or just regular folks. And for better or worse, it's creating a space where people can learn from each other's journeys. But it's tricky too, because it can also feel curated, performative even.
Exactly. It's like this paradox. On one hand, it can inspire you, show you possibilities. But on the other, it can make you compare yourself to this idealized version of someone else's growth. That's not really what self-discovery is about, is it?
Not at all. If anything, real self-discovery happens offline, in those quiet moments when no one's watching. But I do think platforms like these have made people more aware of the importance of, introspection and authenticity.
True. And at its heart, that's what all of this comes down to, doesn't it? Whether it's films, literature, traditions, or even social media, the goal is the same: to reconnect with ourselves, strip away what's unnecessary, and figure out what truly matters.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing is, there's no one-size-fits-all path. It's messy, it's personal, and it's ongoing. But hey, that's what makes it so real, right?
Couldn't have said it better. And for those listening, wherever you are in your journey, just remember, It's okay to take your time. Self-discovery isn't a race.
Absolutely. And on that note, that's all for today. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.